What's going on, everybody? It is Jacob Myers from the Southern Outdoorsman, and as you can see, I am sitting in the JX3 Hybrid stand/saddle, whatever you want to call it, man. It is pretty cool, pretty cool. Went to South Carolina and picked this up a couple days ago from John Reed, and gave me a little crash course on the use of everything. But anyways, this is going to be our first time kind of testing out. Of course, we had Zach in it, and we're going to get Andrew in just a second, and kind of get everybody's first thoughts. My first thoughts at the shop were the attention to detail is superb with this saddle or stand, whatever you want to call it, this hybrid. It's functional, but it definitely takes a little bit of use to get used to the straps and everything else on this saddle. So when it comes to usability of it, I have not yet shut my bow out of this. I don't think it'd be overly difficult, but maybe we'll try that a little bit later and try to get a little more functionality test out of it. But the whole design of this saddle, stand, whatever you want to call it, this hybrid, is to be extremely comfortable while you're hunting, okay? And that's the whole thing, the whole basis of this. Now, you still can go around the tree with more ease than, of course, a tree stand, because you're not going anywhere with a tree stand, but definitely I feel like it's slightly more restricting than with the Mantis saddle from Tethrd. One thing that definitely I do notice about this, once you're sitting in it and get situated, it is extremely comfortable. This definitely feels like the kind of saddle that you could sit in all day long, especially during the rut, when you are truly going to be in the stand all day long when you can. And the one thing I really like about it is pretty much absolutely all your weight is in this saddle. There's really no weight at all in your legs. I mean, you could sit here just like this and feel extremely comfortable. Just hang your legs down. One thing that we've noticed about it, just after messing around, is the whale tail on here feels a little bit narrow, and that's what's holding you up against the tree and propping you up against the tree. I feel like if it was a little bit larger gap-wise, it would allow you to be able to kind of hold your movement, especially when you're trying to go around the edge of the tree. But also, you know, something about this that might make sense for somebody for their use is someone that's looking for pure comfort, and in my opinion, someone that's probably running on private land, having a lot of different setups already pre-hung with sticks or climbing spikes or whatever you're going to be using, and then using this as your stand. You know, for any of the guys out there that are huge fans of Millennium tree stands, this is for you, okay? The comfort of this is going to be superb to any other Millennium I've ever sat in. I've sat in the M100s, the M100Us, which are extremely comfortable, and to me this feels as good or better than those stands. But it's going to give you the mobility of a saddle. Now, it's not due to weight-wise and the size of it, you know, it being right around 9.5 pounds. It's not for, I think, the kind of guy that's running in 2 miles on public land, that's trying to go ultra light. This is not for you. Again, this is a tool. I mean, John even says this when he was talking to me. It's a tool. Use this when the situation arises and it makes sense for you. Again, where I can see this really shining is when you're trying to do an all-day sit, or you're sitting in a long time in one place, and you're really just sitting, especially in funnels. Again, guys, you know, especially for these guys that live out in the Midwest and you're sitting in funnels during the rut, this is going to be the setup for you, comfort-wise. Not saying that the Mantis is not comfortable, because it is. Again, you got kind of tune it to your body, but for something just to get in for the first time, this is fantastic. All right, guys, and that is my thoughts of the JX3 Hybrid. Next, we're going to get our buddy Zach Eccles up in the saddles and test him out and get his first thoughts in both saddles and see what he's thinking about. You know, he's going to be in first the Tethrd Mantis Saddle, get his thoughts on that, which is, again, the ultralight version of all the saddles out there, and let him go from that to the JX3 Hybrid and see what would make more sense for him and his style of hunting, and also just overall features of it from someone that's never sat in a saddle before. So let's see.
My name's Zach. We're out here with the Southern Outdoorsman, and we're testing out a couple saddles. I'm a saddle virgin. I've never sat in one before. We're starting with the Tethrd Mantis. I've heard very good things about this one. I've had a lot of misconceptions maybe about this saddle, and so far maybe 10-15 minutes in this have proved me wrong on most of those. I've got all the movement I could ever want from this. It's super comfortable. The only thing I could really complain about is the leg straps, and that's probably because I'm smaller frame. Honestly, the longer I sit here, I keep expecting myself to feel some kind of fatigue in my knees or legs or something, but I feel like I'm getting more comfortable the longer I sit versus when I first climbed up here. So I mean, I don't think starting off, I don't think a half-day hunt would be any issue at all. I wouldn't be afraid to try a whole day. I would say movement is close. I mean, with the stand I've got a big platform, so movement is about the same, but movement and concealment at the same time, there's no way I could beat that with the stand I hunt with now. Just because I can't put anything between me and what I'm shooting at, no matter where I'm at, unless it's, you know, directly behind me. This one I can put something in between me and the target easy. Alright, we are back in the JX3. It's comfortable. It's ease of use compared to the Mantis I was just in. It took some getting used to. Seems like a lot more in the way than the saddle. It's got a little more weight to it, obviously, because you've got all this structure with it, but I feel like this one may be a better option for, you know, longer sits. If you're in a place with already good ground cover or something, your main concern isn't concealability, I feel like this would be the better option. But as far as dipping off into some public land for the first time, I've never been in there before, I would definitely want to take the Mantis with me versus a stand or something of this nature. I feel I definitely have more mobility in this than I would in, say, a hang on or lock on, something like that. Compared to the saddle, I feel restricted, but at the same time, it's very easy. If you want to stand up, you can go back to leaning down, leaning back. You have, I mean, close to the same amount of mobility. You just feel like you got this in the way, which is something I'm concerned about as far as this whale tail. It's pretty small. It's definitely something that could be worked out. First impressions, because there's always things you learn the first time you're in a stand or saddle that you got to work on. And I feel like this one, it has its place. I don't think it would be for me, the type of style hunting I do. I'm more of, you know, I like scouting on ground. I use maps to my advantage, but I also, you know, if I'm in the woods and see something that catches my eye, I'm going to follow that. And I'm always moving different places. I don't feel like this would be the best suited for me. You know, maybe after I get a few years on me, maybe older guys or maybe even people with private land, or like Jacob was talking about earlier, they've got sets already up, they've got steps and stuff like that out in the woods. Maybe super late season for me this would be good, because I could sit, you know, all day probably and still be comfy. I feel like it'd be a more gun-friendly stand than a bow-friendly stand. Despite having all the same, you know, kind of movements as in a saddle, I still feel restricted to the point where I wouldn't be comfortable bow hunting, at least the first few weeks hunting out of this. But
all right, so Andrew Maxwell here, Southern Outdoorsman. Now it's my turn to look at the JX3 saddle stand thing, and I love it. This thing is comfortable. Like, I spent the entire season last season hunting out of a Tethrd Mantis Saddle, which I love. I absolutely love the saddle from Tethrd, and it has its place. If I had both of them, I'd probably use the Mantis more, just because of the places I go and how I'm hiking in, and, you know, carrying a pack, camera gear, and everything. But this thing, there's something to be said about how comfortable this thing is. I mean, it's a seat with a back, which tree stands don't usually have. You know, if you're in a regular hang-on or a climber sitting up against a tree, you know, you don't have like a nice backrest like I have right here. And yeah, I mean, it's comfortable, man. I'm really surprised with it. As far as going around the tree, it takes some practice, which again, this is my first time in it. I haven't been in the saddle very long at all. But going around the tree does take a little bit of practice, just because when you go around the little whale tail at the bottom, like we talked about earlier, it digs into the tree, and that's what kind of keeps you steady. And you have to learn how to move your hips and position that thing where it's kind of biting into the tree just right. And when you get over there and you shift your hips and it bites into the tree right, you're there. You're solid, which is extremely nice. As you can probably see with my feet really want to be right here. So a ring of steps with this system would actually make a lot of sense over a platform, just because with the platform I'm not really using it. And if I wanted to go around the tree, if I had a ring of steps right here, it'd be a lot easier for me to, you know, go around the tree as opposed to this platform where I kind of have to stand up a little bit. But either way, again, I really like it. It definitely has its place.
What about shootability?
As far as shootability out of this, like Zach mentioned earlier, like for rifle hunting, dude, I like it. If I were going out to rifle hunt between this and the Mantis, I would definitely take this, because I can be sitting here with my rifle just like this, and I'm sitting back and I'm comfortable, and I can rest up against the tree and kind of rest up on this bridge and be solid, and I'm not having to kind of balance myself anywhere. I'm not having to use my feet, which is going to throw me off a little bit if I'm trying to balance on a ring of steps or a platform. With this, you know, my feet are just hanging out, so I don't have to worry about those. I'm solid up against this tree. I can hold myself to the tree, you know, my hand up against the rifle, pushing the rifle against the tree to shoot. So for rifle hunting, this thing's a slam dunk. For bow hunting, I could see how it might be slightly more difficult to shoot a bow out of this than the Mantis. But again, I mean, if you practice with it, you shouldn't have a problem. Which we're gonna do another video on this once we've used it a little bit more and got a little more experience with it, and do kind of a full review. But just initial thoughts, I really like it. For gun hunting, this would be my gun hunting setup, period, for sure. Even just sitting in it for this short amount of time, I'm pretty sure that I would gun hunt out of this anytime I gun hunted out of a saddle. So overall, very impressed. Look for another video coming soon. Thank you guys for watching, and make sure you subscribe. Thanks.